All right, so for example 2, it's a recreation application. It says, while searching for a lost hiker, a helicopter covers a square area of 150 miles squared. So we have a square area, right? It is a square. A square means that all the sides are the same length. This little hash mark means that all the sides are the same length. And the area is 150 square miles. What is the approximate length of each side of the square? So we know that all the sides are the same. So this is going to be a side, this is a side, this is a side, this is a side. We know the area of this is length times width, or if this is a side and this is a side, that's the same thing as side squared. Okay? What is the approximate length of each side of the square area? Round your answer to the nearest mile. Okay, great. So we know the area is equal to 150, right? So we're going to substitute that in for area. Okay, now we just need to determine what the side is, right? So we need to get S by itself. So what is the square root? Okay, we have to do the inverse operation of a squared, which would be a square root. So we're going to square root each side, right? So the square root of 150, this square root and that square root cancel each other out. We're left with S, square root of 150. So it says, what is the approximate length of each side? So we just need to know what two numbers is this between. So let me think. 12 squared is 144, and 13 squared is 169. So I'm going to say it's between those two numbers. So it's between 144, and this is 150. And 169. So it's between those numbers. Now I can't figure out what this is, but I can figure out what these are. So this 144 is the same thing as 12 squared. 169 is the same thing as 13 squared. So square root and squared cancel each other out. Square root and squared cancel each other out. We have 12 square root of 150. And 13. So the side is between 12 and 13 miles. I would say it's probably closer to 144, right? It's closer to 12 because 50 is closer to 144 than it is 169. So my guess it would be like 12.2 or 12.3. But it says round your answer to the nearest mile. So what do we know? We know that 150 is closer to 144, so it would round to 12. So round your answer to the nearest mile. It says, what is the approximate length of each side? We would say the approximate length approximate. Okay, I spelled it wrong. Approximate length of each side is 12 miles. All right, there is our answer. Perfect. So now I want you to go ahead and try B on your own. So here's my friend, the pause dragon, reminding you to pause your device. Go ahead and work out B. When you get done, press play and we'll talk about it. All right, see you in a bit. All right, let's see how you did. It says you want to sew a fringe on a square tablecloth. Okay, so we have a square tablecloth, which means all the sides are the same length, right? And so this is side, and this is side, and this is side, this is a side, and we're like sewing fringe on. Well, that's kind of fun. Okay, all the way around fringe. Okay, you want to sew a fringe on a square tablecloth with an area of 500 square inches. Calculate the length of each side of the tablecloth and the length of fringe you will need to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. The nearest 1/10 of an inch. Let's just change this to nearest inch. Okay, we're just going to nearest, look at how magical this is, nearest inch. Okay, we're just going to go nearest inch. Okay. So area, right, is area equals length times width, but in this we have the same number, so it's S squared. The length and the width is there. We know that the area is equal to 500 inches, so we substitute that in here. Okay, we have to get s by itself. So right now it's being squared, so we do the inverse operation of a square number, which is a square root. So we're going to square root both sides. Square root and squared cancel each other out. We're left with s. And now we just need to come up with an estimate as far as what 500 is. Now, when we did this before, we went to 20 squared, which was 400, but we need to go higher, right? So what would be 21 squared would be 441. Okay, then we need to do 22 squared, which is 484. We're getting closer. And then 23 squared is equal to 529. We have a winner. Okay, so we know that the square root of 500 is between 22 and 23. Okay, so it's between the square root of 484. It's bigger than that, but less than the square root of 529. Okay, so we can't figure out what the square root of 500 is at this time, but we can figure out what 484 and 529 are. So 484 is the same thing as 22 squared. Okay. And the square root of 529 is the same thing as the square root of 23 squared. Square root and squared cancel each other out. Square root and squared cancel each other out. We're left with 22. Okay, so we need to figure out to the nearest inch. So is the square root of 500, is it closer to 22 or is it closer to 23? So let's look here at the number. So it looks like it is, well, 29 away from, 500 is 29 away from 529. And we know that 480 is 20 away, so it's 16 away. So it's definitely closer to 22. So we would round it to 22. So calculate the length of each side of the tablecloth and the length of fringe you will need to the nearest inch. So we will need 22 inches, but actually what we would probably do is we'd want to probably get more because you don't want to have like less. So in a problem like this where we're calculating material, you would probably go up to 23 inches. So by normal rounding rules, we would round down because it is closer to 22 inches. However, you're going to be short, so you'd probably want to go 23, but we'll just say we need 22 inches of fringe for each side. Okay, that is it. All right, I will see you in a little bit for example 3.